So which one should I do? Should I finish the Burlington? This is Georgetown. These are all Georgetown. All this whole batch here. This one I don't know what it is. So I think that's what I'll do. I'll do that one. I kind of already saw this one before and I thought it was interesting. Interesting color. Okay, let's see. Oh, a piece of the abrader broke off. I was going to say if that was part of this piece, that would have been pretty bad. It looks like someone tried to make a paleo-looking thing out of it. This is not mine. These are all from other people. In case you were wondering, these are all from other people that they just discarded or something, saved it for later or whatever. I just ended up with them. Either as gifts or from the debitage piles or whatever. It's all mixed together. Okay. So yeah, if they offer me free stuff, it doesn't matter if they're all wonky bifaces or whatever, I say, oh yes. I will take them. Oh, that's a good candidate for paleo for sure. I don't know. I don't have much luck doing the Clovis and stuff on video. In the past, I had to delete several videos just to get one that was working. We'll see. Yeah, it'll flake. It'll flake nicely. Right, Mr. Nicely? It will flake nicely. In this case, yes. And I think it's a heat treat, so that helps. Although making Clovis out of heat treat is controversial. I think they use whatever they could get their hands on. Yeah, it's going to be difficult to even it out to make it all regularized. One side is pretty flat except for that dip right there. I don't know, the side, not having much luck flaking from the side right there. That was weird. Let me see. I just saw like a Dalton on Instagram or something. Someone had found a Dalton. Looked kind of Clovis-like, but it had no flutes. So I would say it was a Dalton. But it could be an unfluted Clovis. I can make those pretty easily. Unfluted Clovis pretty easily. Relatively speaking. But nobody wants to see that. Nope, nope, nope. Nope, nope, nope. No unfluteds. It's cheating. Cheating to skip the flutings. So what to do? I just need to flatten it out. the tip's going to be a little bit narrow because of this cortex still on the piece there. Still has a little bit of cortex, but it flakes really, really easily. I think that's flat enough. Or I think that I don't need to go any flatter, but I don't know. Leave that little defect in there in the final piece. I don't know. We'll see. Some of it naps okay, but some of it doesn't respond at all. There's an inconsistency in the material. It's probably why they gave up on it. Just when you think you're understanding how it naps, it doesn't cooperate. At least on the couple of strikes that I hit earlier. So far, not bad. Not too shabby. Yeah. Not too shabby. Yeah, I gotta be careful though. If I really drive some flakes, it's gonna overshoot. I don't have enough width. This is almost the final dimensions. I can't lose any width at this point. The gloves are getting in the way. Okay, all right. I'm gonna have to put it back on if I'm gonna flute this. Put the gloves back on because I need to hold it while I'm driving some flakes. Keep it from snapping in the middle. I'm just gonna regularize it, clean it up and regularize it. For now, yeah, much better without the glove. Although I can't get too aggressive because for some reason it wants to do its own thing. Yeah, that area with the cortex, typical non-cooperative stuff. So if I do make a Clovis out of it, it's going to be a small one. I got to get rid of that cortex. Or try to, anyway. It's difficult to regularize it when I'm trying to avoid the overshots, because I really need to be aggressive to thin it down more. But still way too thick, I think. The thinning flakes from the base are going to thin it down, yes, but still needs to be a little thinner. That's what's unfortunate there, that step fracture. Unfortunate step fracture. All right. If I regularize it with pressure, I can see where I'm at. If I make the preform as nice as I can, the fluting or the thinning flakes from the base are going to be easier. Yeah, the edges are pretty much ground already, so I didn't have to grind them more. It looks like it's pressure flaking fine. It's not as soft as I thought. Still has a little bit of toughness to it, which is good. Yeah. If it's still a little bit tough, the flakes, the thinning flakes from the base don't dive as badly. If it's really easy to flake, those thinning flakes from the base will start to dive. You can't run a really long flute unless you've got it braced somehow so it can't break. And I don't have anything to brace it with except my gloves while holding it in my hand. You'll see. I'll try one side, and if one side goes really good, I might just quit and just not push my luck on the other side. But if the first side does not go well, as far as the thinning flake or the flute, then I got to do the other side just to see if I can get a good flute. So I guess I'm going to try to attempt a Clovis after all, right? Right. Yes, 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 yes. What's going on? It's slippery. Let's see. Sometimes copper is better. Yeah, there you go. Doesn't slip as much as the steel on this material. Okay. Nice. Regularize. Make sure it's regularized. Nice and pretty. So yeah, there were small Clovises for sure. I sold some casts of the small Clovises in one of my auctions, and they were no more than 3 inches long. I don't think they were any more than 3 inches. That's what this is. Very similar in size to those other ones. Yeah. So it's within range, it's just a little bit small, that's all. Now I'm going to use indirect percussion to create bold flaking on the blade, but I'm going to attempt the thinning flakes first, just so I have some heft in the body of the point. It helps to prevent it from snapping in half. But I am going to run a few other thinning flakes just to smooth it out before I do base thinning flakes. I'll do some from the side. You'll see. It's still a little bit lumpy. Okay. And lumps create weaknesses and differences in strength in the piece. Okay. Yeah, see, I wanted that side nice and flat, and that did pretty well. I don't want any excess weight at the tip, so I take some off of there. Let me see. Well, that's probably too much. I thought I had to hit that hard, but I guess I didn't need to hit it that hard. That changes things. I might not be able to flute both sides. And that crack right there is unfortunate. Yeah, see, now it doesn't want to go. First it goes too much, and then it doesn't want to do it. I got to be careful with these strikes. I don't want to cut it in half right now. I just want to thin it down a little bit. I'm going to drive a thinning flake into this area. Yeah. Before I do the thinning flake in that area. So I'm bracing it a little bit. So I take some material away from the sides so I can run a little thinning flake in the middle. But it's still too lumpy right there on that side. It's best to have it really, really nicely contoured before running the thinning flake from the base. That way it doesn't have any obstacles. Yeah, that is unfortunate. I took off too much from that other side. Both with those, with that bold thinning flake, that kind of messed it up. This flake right there. Yeah, it's flaking really well. I shouldn't have any trouble with it, but for some reason. Just bear with me, I'm trying to regularize the whole thing. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it would be nice. I said I was going to run a flake there first, but I don't know. I'll just run this flake first. And I usually don't isolate the platform, but on this one, just to be safe, let's see. That was a really hard hit. I don't know if I want to do another one like that. But it ran okay. Yeah, I'm not going to run another flake there. That's it for that side. So the first flake was okay. It'll still look like a Clovis even if that's the only one that works. Even if that's the only flake that works. Thinning flake from the base, that works. If that's the only one that runs, then it'll be all right. Now it thinned it down a little bit, so I've got to be very careful about making sure there's no possibility that there's an existing crack on the edge that can open up and go across when I shoot this thinning flake here. So I'm taking down the sides a little bit. Yeah, and I'm going to have to run a couple of thinning flakes before the final thinning flake. So I'll be doing like 3 thinning flakes from the base on the other side. You'll see. Copper grips it much better than the steel. Yeah. There it goes. Just that little bit. See how that went? Just that little bit toward the end there was enough to dive in and cause a weakness. Just that little bit. Okay. All right, shall we try it again with this piece? This is the thicker, better piece. I could try fluting this one. But it's going to be even a smaller Clovis than the other one. Yeah, I'm not very talkative today because I'm not feeling completely well. something's hitting me like pollen or something, right? I got to adjust. After a few weeks, probably I'll adjust. So yeah, I'm going to focus on that. Just bear with me. I'm going to focus on this. Get this down to a preform fast without having to explain what I'm doing. And we'll see where it goes. Okay. I don't know. Okay, so it's mostly just pressure flaking from here with a few other percussion flakes toward the end on the blade, I think. I think it might need a few more percussion flakes on the blade, but the thinning of the stem area is done. That's as good as it's going to get on this particular piece. It doesn't take that long to do it with indirect percussion. Now, if I had a jig or something that I needed to use, it would take longer. Just dealing with the jig itself would mean it would take a little bit longer. It's pretty expedient with indirect percussion. A jig that would use pressure would probably do a better looking thinning flake as you see other modern reproductions, as you see in other modern reproductions. And I do think the sides were constricted after the thinning flakes, not before. So the preforms were pretty crude, I think, and bulky, and then thinned in the basal area first, and then pretty much shaped around the flutes in some cases. Not all cases, I don't think, but in some cases, I think they did shape it around the flutes. Just because the variability of these thinning flakes, they don't always go where you want them to go. So when that happens, you just kind of shape the point around them if you want the flutes in the middle. Yeah. And a lot of these Clovis points were hefty. So I'm not going to thin it down too much. I'm just going to do a couple more indirect percussion flakes on the blade. Or, I don't know, we'll see. I say a couple, but it looks like I might need to do a lot. And do some that will look like pressure flakes. They're just going to be little minor percussion flakes. Okay. I gotta concentrate on these two. Yeah, so I don't mess it up like that. Can't be messing it up like that too much. Come on. First you want to do it and then you don't. I think it's me. I think it's late. Yeah. Okay, here we go. See if we can get this. This is excellent quality material, so I shouldn't have any issues with it. And it's raw. It's not heat treated this time, so I don't got any excuses. Yeah, it's just not doing it. I don't want to grind it anymore because then I had to hit it way too hard. Now on the real ones, I think some of these were heavy pressure and not percussion, but you never know. I have good results with percussion, but I think some of these flakes on the real ones were made with heavy pressure, in my opinion. I don't know. I want to clean that up. I think that did it. Kind of, sort of. I think that cleaned it up enough that I can do the rest with pressure. Because I don't want it to be too thin. It's got to be hefty. I was going to say bulky, but it's got to be hefty. But it has to be haftable. They thinned it down for a reason with the thinning flakes, with the flutes. These things have flutes for a reason. They wanted it to be thin toward toward the base. Okay. All right, I think that was it. Yeah, enough. I can do enough now with pressure. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. See if I can do it in 10 minutes. Pretty straightforward pressure flaking. As long as I don't mess up the symmetry. As long as I don't mess up the edge near the base. The sides here are on real ones are very regular. The blade can be kind of wonky and jagged on the edges, but the hefting area is very regular. With very regular flakes sometimes. Almost parallel flaking. And the oracles are robust, even on small specimens. So I gotta make sure I don't make these too pointy or delicate. Come on. Yeah. I don't need to shape that anyway. Okay. Now the fact that these had grinding on them, you know, the paleo points had ground bases, indicates that they knew all about grinding. So they were probably grinding to prepare platforms on other point styles after Clovis. I'm not going to mention anything that is before Clovis. That's kind of controversial, so I won't mention it in this video. But yeah, the grinding, the abrading, I don't see much of it on archaic stuff, but they knew about it, obviously, because these are before archaic period. I bring that up because that's one of the things I don't know what to think about. I don't know what to think about abrading on the archaic pieces. When I don't see much, you know, you kind of come to the conclusion that they didn't do much, but they knew about it. They had to know about it. Because there's a lot of abrading going on with these paleo points. And abrading does help you to flint knap tremendously in some cases to prevent crushing. Okay, so Clovis had bold flaking all the way around. There's no real nitpickety flaking until you get to this area. That might be just too many flakes there, but oh well. Sometimes it looks like they were making these very quickly, and sometimes it doesn't. Some of them are very regular, so. I got some leeway. I think the stem is okay right now. I might take it down a little bit more. I just need to sharpen the blade. I just abraded it because I'm going to do another pass. The tips are thin. They're not that pointy, but the tips are thin, so I'm going to try that. Let's see. Thin out the tip from the side view. Yeah, a little bit too regular, but oh well. A lot of Clovises have very random flaking. All right, thin tip. Oops. Thin tip. Which direction do I go? Yeah, it can't be rounded like that. It's got to be thin. So let me think here. I mean, it can't have any bulk at the tip. It's got to be very thin, in my opinion. Better. I'm getting there. Thin but not tapered. Not tapered perfectly. What I'm doing is just trying to sharpen right now. But yeah, it's thick and then all of a sudden it gets really thin. Like they took out some flakes specifically just to thin down the tip. Just like they thinned down the base, they took a few flakes to thin down the tip. That's it. Okay, I think I'm done with most of the pressure flaking. I'm just going to clean it up a little bit. Maybe put a little constriction down here. I'm going to grind it kind of far up because on the small ones I think they were hafted a little bit higher than the bigger ones, proportionately speaking. On the casts that I have, I think the grinding was almost halfway up, and it may have been because they may have been small because they're just resharpened pieces, and that's why they're looks like they're ground really far up the sides, but you know, it could be just resharpened in some cases on my casts. It doesn't have to be perfect. All right. Just a slight constriction on the sides. Okay. And the more minute the flakes, the easier it is to grind it down and obtain a relatively straight edge. You know, the smaller and smaller the flakes get, the better it is for grinding. On the stem anyway. There are hardly any small flakes up on the blade. A lot of it was very bold. Up on the blade. So yeah, these are just my observations. These are just my opinions and stuff. think this size Clovis was fairly common in some areas. Yeah, let me see. Do I have my tape measure? I still don't have my tape measure. That's not quite an inch, I don't think. It's not quite an inch wide. So grind, it's got to be heavily ground. No sharpness at all. And I think they even ground the face a little bit. Because I have held Folsom and Clovis, real ones, and they're all very smooth on the stem. The entire stem. Not just the sides. Everything feels smooth. Okay. There you go.